So what you'll see in this first video is us exploring what resilience means. And so we're going to do a brainstorm, a debrief, and I'm going to be adding in a few little factoids about what we know about resilience. And that's all this video will show. We've all got quite a lot of wisdom around resilience, but when I was preparing for my workshop, I thought, what does it take to work in the hospice sector? And what does it take to do your job? And I thought it takes the brains of Einstein, stamina of Mo Farah, and the patience of Mother Teresa. That's quite a broad requirement because of the stress of the job that you do and the visibility that you have in some places that you don't have in others. So that's why I thought, let's just think about the brainstorm that we've got in order that we then kind of pull it down into what we know about resilience. And I don't intend to cover this model, but I will give you one of these because this is the basis of the IPPQ, the questionnaire that you filled in before you came. For some of you, it won't have been the first time. But I'm just going to give you one of these cards here. And these are for you to take away and us to think about further. So if you have one of these each, and what I just want to say is we've got this model here. And so what we know about happiness at work and performance is that we've got these 5 operational bobbles around the edge. So the first one is contribution, and that's about what you do. And then we've got conviction, which I'll come back to in a minute. And conviction is really about your short-term motivation. Culture is your feeling of fit. Commitment is your long-term engagement with your workplace. And confidence is confidence. And this is what shows up at work. And round the outside, we've got trust, recognition, and pride, and that's what you want to feel in your workplace. And at the centre, we've got achieving your potential, and everything's working well, and you're using your skills, and you're getting what you need. Then you do feel that this is all adding up to a sense of achieving your potential. But coming back to conviction, right, which is this short-term thing, resilience operates in 2 places. You've got the short-term thing, when you get, okay, crisis, all hands to the pump, adrenaline kicks in, and you deal with it. But you've got the longer-term thing, which is when you're dealing with a difficult situation which goes on and on, like we had over there, and you can't really see an end to it. And that is a harder thing to deal with because of your cortisol levels, which is why we tend to get ill with this endless cortisol floating around our system, and I don't need to tell you anything about that. So this is why resilience, it goes up and down. Some days we can feel, right, we've slept well, right, we're going to have more oomph, we go in to face our difficult situation, and it feels okay. And other days we just go, I cannot do this because energy is missing. And I'm sure you all know that. I know that energy and my will to do something are very closely connected. And that's why 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, it's not 1 glass of wine, but it's probably 2. Or just to sneak another one. Okay. So my will, my energy isn't there. So that is where resilience fits in the overall picture of things, and that's all I want to talk about there. But a framework for us to work on over the next 2 days is here. Now this is actually taken from work done in your sector, in this book, Resilience in Palliative Care. So I thought I ought to read your own book about this before I turned up. And they have this brilliant model, a casita. Do any of you know this? No? Okay, so it was first devised in 1998, and this is the guy, Vanish Standel. Please don't quote me on that. But he was looking at what is it that you need to think about to be resilient. So at the bottom we've got our physical health, which you already mentioned. This is the kind of, even underneath the foundations, because you're not well, you can't do anything, can you? But then you've got the foundations here, your network, your friends, what you think about yourself. Do you accept yourself in the situation? Because we all want to be perfect and we're not. And then you've got the first floor here, which is your capacity to discover sense and meaning, as we talked about how important meaning is, and that you're coherent within what you're setting out to do. So it's no good working in an organisation. You were talking about values and how you recruit for values. If you're not in a place where the values are being lived and the values matter to you, and I particularly think they matter in healthcare, then you've got too big a stretch, and it turns into a very difficult emotional labour task. We'll talk about emotional labour later. So we've got the first floor, but in the second floor we've got skills that we bring to the party and things that we need to develop and think about. So it might be your communication skills or your influencing skills. And then in the attic, we've got these other experiences which are going to help us, but we don't know what they are. And I thought, oh, this is a gorgeous model. I really like it. So what we're going to be working on in the next couple of days are these two things. This is what we're going to do. So this and this. And we might do some thinking about that if you choose to, because a lot of what we're going to do is peer coaching work. And I'm going to ask you to get together in pairs and do some work. What are we going to work on? Oh, let's talk about what resilience is first. I forgot to put this slide in, and I thought, oh my goodness, yesterday evening, must mention what we think resilience is. So here we go. It's the capacity to withstand the knocks, and it's bounce back, but I quite like bounce forward, because you bounce back, you're going backwards. And I remember I lived in Belgium for 5 years, and everybody said when we came back, welcome back. I was like, no, I don't want to go back. But how do I ask people to say welcome forward to me? So there's this forward, so we can keep going. It's about the keeping going in a psychologically healthy manner. And I think that the psychologically healthy thing is really important, because you can keep going at a cost to yourself, and that is not very useful. So this is what my understanding of resilience is. And this is what some other people have said. So capacity to move forward in the face of difficulty, yes, we like that. Positive adaptation, we like that, because we need to adapt. This is a long one, isn't it? This is taken straight from a medical thing. And then we've got this adaptation again. So this is what other people think, but we still don't know. Is it part of your personality? And I'm sure it is. Is it input that you get from elsewhere? Or is it an output? And all the academics argue about that. So I don't want to get too stuck in that, but I do think that it's a series of different things that we can do to help ourselves manage in different situations, because we will all be facing different situations. So what will help? So that's why I came up with this one. So here we have got these 5 different definitions, and you can pick and choose the ones that work for you. But as we've gone through the room, I think that you kind of know it when you see it, and it's about capacity, it's about adaptability, it's about reaching out, it's about recognizing what's going on for yourself, and it's about going, okay, here we are. So what do we know about resilience? I'm going to do some talking now, and then we're going to get into doing the doing. So forgive me if I talk a bit, and then we'll do some doing. So we do know that some stress is good for us, because it's how we grow and learn. We also know that we're much more resilient than you might imagine, and there's tons of studies that show that. Have any of you read any of them? Okay, so for example, when 9/11 happened, there was an estimation that in New York 4% of people would need counselling because they would be so affected by what had happened. In fact, it was 0.4%. It was much, much fewer people needed counselling than was originally estimated, because we have this inner grit that we don't know what we have until we're tested. So we are damaged by experiencing bad stuff, and there's very nice research done from the 30s in America in the Depression about what happened to children who had to go through really tough times in the Depression and what happened to them. And it looks as if you don't have anything that asks you to be resilient under the age of 40, it's then much harder afterwards. And life doesn't get easier, it gets harder. So we need to test our resilience muscle so that we have it when we need it. We've already talked about some people being hardier, tougher than others. And so doing difficult things, we know, exercises that muscle that we were talking about. And we know that it's domain specific. You might feel it less resilient at doing certain things and with certain people. So some people, as we've talked about, those mood drains, will take it out of us, and other people don't. They add to it. So if you're experiencing working with people and times like that, how do you minimize one and maximize another to manage? So that's what we know. So, in summary of what we've been saying, we've just been thinking about understanding resilience. We've talked a little bit about this is about managing your whole self, and I've mentioned peer coaching. Now, energy, we've talked about stamina, capacity. That's energy. So I want to look quite a lot at energy. And if you bring what's good, put that positivity, which we've mentioned, to the picture, it's much easier to deal with. So then we're going to think about control, because when you look at what you have control of, it means that you can take action in a way you go, okay, well, I could do that, but that, do you know what, I'm not going to deal with because I have no control of it. And if you constantly fight the things you have no control of, it reduces your energy, your resilience. Positive mindset. Now, there are loads and loads of tools for positive mindset and how you look at that. And that's really important because it helps you cope. And we've mentioned recognition. So this is a summary of some of the things we've been saying, which translates into our agenda. Woohoo! So today, what we're going to do is we've been thinking about is how we understand resilience, and how you manage your whole self is the next thing we're going to do.